Hello, my name is Richard Miller, and I'll be guiding you through this Masterclass, A Complete Beginner's Guide to Retrofit Delivery. So this is part 2 of our Beginner's Guide, and this focuses on the topics and areas where it's worth making an early start so that you make sure that you're ready for your project. These are the topics we'll be working through, and most of them we're going to cover in just a little bit of superficial detail, just give you the overview. For each one of these topics, there are on-demand masterclasses and there are toolkits available on the website that will help you go into more depth. So this is just trying to give you the framework and the shape of what a project looks like and some of the issues you might need to think about at an early stage. So you decided to go ahead with a retrofit project. When do you start? Where do you start? How do you begin? The website has toolkits and masterclasses for every aspect of a retrofit project, and these two are a great place to start. The retrofit project overview looks at the life cycle of a project from beginning to end and shows all the key steps. The business case toolkit covers all the information you need to assemble to set up a successful project. So together, they're a great introduction to the practical realities, and that is where I would start. So these are the main steps in a retrofit project from the project overview toolkit. And we divide the tasks into 3 phases: preparation, getting ready, actual delivery of the project, and then post-retrofit, what do you do after the main work is completed? Some activities, like resident engagement and procurement, run across the whole life of the project, and others are specific to different phases. So let's zoom in on the preparation phase. That's the most important to you when starting a project. And let's also add in some additional tasks that you need to look at when doing your initial thinking. And they are the business case, securing buy-in from partners and stakeholders, and securing the finance. At the heart of the retrofit project is the standard PAS 2035. This was developed in response to a lot of problems in running retrofit projects, and it helps you to get a good result. So it's a way of running the project in order to avoid some of the known problems, and it's also required if you're looking for public funding. And this may be new to you if you've not done this kind of project before. So PAS 2035 is quite complicated, but you don't need to know the detail. A lot of the specifics of the process will be outsourced to contractors and suppliers. However, it's really worth understanding the basics of the standard and how it helps you to deliver a more successful project. It looks like additional bureaucracy, but it is there to help you avoid mistakes. An example of that is this figure here, the measures interaction matrix. It shows all the main types of improvements you can make during a retrofit, and it shows which ones operate independently from each other and can be fitted without interference, they're additive, and some of the ones that interact and the ways that they interact and some of the care you have to take. And then in red, those interventions that you don't want to put together because they don't play well together. They should never be combined. So understanding the basic thinking behind PAS 2035 is essential. Fortunately, there are on-demand masterclasses and toolkits, and there's lots of material from organizations like the Retrofit Academy to help you understand how the standard works without necessarily going into too much of the detail. The other key thing that we find useful in helping people get started is the idea of the business case. So the business case pulls together the total plan with the costs and benefits. It helps you to get buy-in from the leadership team, funders, and all the other stakeholders. And this is our model. This is what is in the toolkit. It's a framework which will help you make sure you've covered all the essential topics. A series of questions you need to be able to answer for a successful project. So for example, the strategic purpose. This is the alignment between the project and the organization's strategy. For example, We will be a net zero carbon emission organisation by 2050. This project is a step to net zero housing stock. The outcome. What will the project deliver? This project will deliver an upgrade of 100 properties to EPCC at a minimum. And then the benefits. If we deliver the project, what will be the benefits and who benefits? If we deliver the project, we will develop our capability for large-scale upgrades, improve the quality of our stock, cut maintenance costs, and improve tenant satisfaction. And then there are specific actions and interventions that you're going to take to deliver those benefits and that outcome. So you might be targeting a combination of external wall and loft insulation together with replacement doors and windows. And then the rest, the delivery plan. What's the program? What's the sequence of activities for delivering those retrofit actions? How much is it going to cost? How are you going to finance those costs? What resources do you need, both internal and external, to deliver the project? What's the strategy for procurement? How are you going to about securing these external resources? And then risk management. What is your risk management plan? What is your risk register? Understanding what you expect the risks to be, where you expect them to fall, and how you're going to mitigate and manage those risks. So the outcome, benefits, and retrofit actions cover what is in the project, what the project will deliver. The strategic purpose covers the why. How does this project meet the needs of the organization? Where does it fit with the overall strategy? And why should the leadership team pick this project rather than another one? The other sections, the delivery plan, the costs, financing, resource requirements, procurement strategy, and risk management, cover how you plan to deliver the project objectives. Now, there's no implied sequence in dealing with these information blocks. The process can start anywhere in any block with an idea or a constraint. In the same way, you can't answer all the questions in a block in detail at the beginning of the project planning. Information becomes available at different times, and new information in one block can change the answers in another. The business case evolves, becoming more certain and more detailed as the planning continues. So, for example, you may have decided the retrofit actions you wish to take to achieve the outcome and benefits, but it may turn out that you can't afford it, or it can't be delivered in the target timescale, and so you have to change how you're going to go about the project. So it's a conversation of backwards and forwards, this evolution of the project as you get deeper into the planning. Now, your organization may have a set process for developing a business case, but if you collect all the information in this framework, you should be able to compile the business case regardless of the structure that is required. Just rearrange the sections as necessary. And another useful thing you can do is create a one-page overview of the project, putting the key points, a few sentences, a few words in each of the boxes to tell you where you're up to. And you can color code the boxes if you like, red, amber, or green. Where are we secure? Where are we on target? Where are we having problems? Where might we need to make some changes? Once you have your business case, you need to sell it to all the key stakeholders, and you need to tell a story. So you need to work out what the story is. You need to align it with the interests of the stakeholders, and then you need to tell it effectively. To create a compelling story, you must be clear on what the project will deliver, why it is important to your organization, how you will deliver it. That's your business case, what we've just been talking about. Then you need to show that the project aligns with the goals and needs of the organization and important stakeholders and external forces. So there may be issues internal to the organization. What is the strategy, the corporate strategy? External forces, trends and drivers, new regulatory requirements, and then the needs of specific individuals or teams. You've got a lot of people in the organization who are going to have to help you with this project, and they're already pretty busy. So one of the things you need to do with your story is show how doing this project is going to make their lives easier and help them deliver their targets. And then once you have a story well aligned with the organization's goals and needs, you need to tell it effectively. And that's about reducing the complexity of your story, simplifying it, being able to adapt it to different audiences, and then using the story to convince. So you need to be able to tell the story quickly and efficiently to hit those high points. This project is about, it will deliver, it matters because. In order to deliver this project, we need to. Those simple phrases. It's often called the elevator pitch, the idea that you get into the lift with the CEO of your organization and you have 20 seconds between floors to make your pitch for the project. Not to cover all the detail, but just to attract some interest. And marketers have a phrase they use to describe this. They talk about AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action. If you want people to take action, you need to attract their attention and their interest first. So make the story simple. Find a way to tell the story, the important features of it very, very quickly in a small amount of time. And adapt the story to the different audiences. When you're telling the story to your repairs and maintenance team, you probably will give them different information and different details than if you're talking to your tenants or talking to your finance people or your procurement people. So be prepared and able to adapt the story to the different audiences and then use the story to convince. You tell it over and over again. One key thing to think about early is data, particularly your stock data. To develop an effective plan for retrofitting your properties, you need good data on the housing stock. How is it constructed? What modifications have been made to it? What is its performance? Are there any known problems? And this is an area where we've seen a lot of difficulties in retrofit projects. Many social landlords think they have complete, reliable, and up-to-date stock information, but then find that the data is full of errors and gaps. In a proper PAS 2035 compliant retrofit program, we need more detailed information on the buildings than is usually necessary for routine repairs, maintenance, and upgrades. Old and incomplete energy performance certificates are not going to be good enough. So there is guidance on checking and improving your stock data in a specific toolkit. And good quality data should be stored in one place so that there's a single version of the truth. And again, in many organizations, you find that different parts of the organization have different stock databases with different information in them. You need to find a way to combine those to actually understand your stock. And the data is stored in a consistent and easy to use format so that people can find the information that they need when they need it. It needs to be frequently maintained, up to date and reliable, and then scrupulously cleaned to remove any errors. And that's where a lot of the difficulties happen. People believe that they have good quality data from EPC surveys. You look into the database and you find that 50 properties have got absolutely identical EPC data. That doesn't seem very likely. So you need to check, you need to be looking at your data from fairly early on because it takes a bit of time to fix. Good quality stock data is essential for the success of your project. And many social landlords use external companies to help them lift the data to the necessary quality. The weakness of your stock data is often a surprise and a shock. So start early to give yourself time to sort it out. And you need to have the right team in place. Your key questions are, have I got the team that can deliver the project? Do I have all the skills that I am going to need? How will I fill the gaps? And then will the team work well together? So these are the basic steps when you're doing your skills audit and getting your teams together. Where do the work streams connect? Where are the existing links and gaps that you know of? So first, work out the tasks and roles required for your project. The skills audit and teams building toolkit has a good list of the kind of tasks which are necessary in a properly organized retrofit program. That won't work for your organization directly, but it's a good starting point. So take that list, have a look at it. What is missing from it? What areas have you already got covered? You map the people you have available to the list of roles and tasks that you've identified. And then you identify the gaps in coverage. Obviously, tasks with no one to cover them. And then you decide how you will bridge those gaps. Are you going to train people? Are you going to recruit new people? Or are you going to outsource the task? And these are not necessarily quick things to do. If you decide to train or recruit, it will take time. And if you plan to outsource, will there be the capacity in your suppliers? And then, of course, you have to manage the team through the project. That's a whole different challenge. It's also worth considering at an early stage whether you would benefit from being part of a consortium, a group of providers coming together to collaborate. A consortium adds complexity, but it gives you access to resources, experience, and different perspectives. It can really strengthen the project. And some key activities like the Retrofit Coordinator, which is a required role in the PAS 2035 compliant projects, you can share that across a number of people. You can share the procurement. Each member of the consortium can work where they're particularly strong and help the others. So it's certainly something to think about at an early stage. Look around you, look at nearby social housing providers, look at what they're doing. Can you work together? One of the threads that runs right through the project and where an early start is really beneficial is resident engagement. You need to sell the project to the tenants and keep them engaged and on side throughout the project life. And that's quite a long time. If you don't engage with the residents in a meaningful way, you can have costly and time-consuming resistance, misunderstandings, and misinformation. If one of your tenants has a problem with the retrofit program, that news will run like wildfire throughout the community. So once again, Turner Townsend have provided a resident engagement toolkit that draws on the experience of many successful projects. And these are the main steps. Obviously, you need to start with engagement planning. This is a new and substantial program. It may be different to the kinds of resident engagement your team is already working on. So how are you going to communicate this? What channels are you going to use? What information are you going to supply? Before the project starts, you need to raise awareness with all the stakeholders. What's going on? What's being planned? What's being talked about? And then at the launch, an opportunity to let everyone know what is happening. As you get into the project, when you're talking about the design of the retrofits, involving the residents is very powerful. If you can adapt to their requirements, if they feel they are part of the process and their needs are listened to in developing the design, then they're much more likely to be supportive of the project. Instead of the retrofits being done to them, they're being done with them. And when it comes to the installation, your goal is to minimize disruption and keep residents informed what's going on. Are there any delays? Are components stuck on a boat somewhere waiting to be imported? Is there a shortage of manpower to complete some of the work? Have some problems emerged? If there are, get on the front foot. Tell them about them. Don't let rumors spread through the community. And at the handover, provide one-to-one support. Particularly if you're changing to a low-carbon form of heating, then the building operates differently. The way they're used to living in their home may need to change. The obvious example being if you're using heat pumps, the way in which you heat the house is completely different. It's not a gas boiler. It doesn't have that instant on, instant off approach. So people need to be helped to understand how to operate their home to get the most comfort for the minimum expenditure. And then after the works are completed, follow up on understanding and satisfaction, and learn from it. So like the other topics, resident engagement is a really important thing, and it has to run right through the project. Another topic to think about at an early stage is finance. You may be looking for grant funding, but that will be co-funded with you. Where is the rest of the money going to come from? Is it going to come from reserves? Is it going to come from commercial lending? Will it come from corporate bonds or some other type of financing? And this is important because the type and amount of available financing may decide the scale of your project, what's practical, and even the specific improvements that you make. Monitoring and evaluation is a key part of any project. It is a requirement of PAS 2035, it's built into the standard, and if you're looking for SHDF funding, it is a condition of the grant. And it's a vital part of you learning from each project so that the next one will be faster, more cost-effective, and deliver better results. Many of the projects you've done before will not have involved the kind of formal monitoring and evaluation we're talking about here. So it's worth doing some thinking about this up front. Am I going to install sensors? What data am I going to collect? How am I going to engage with the tenants? Because you will need quantitative information on building performance and energy costs. Also, qualitative information on how it's working for the residents. And what can be particularly useful for you and future projects is an honest assessment of how your internal processes and project management worked and what you need to improve next time. So the monitoring and evaluation is not only about satisfying the people you're getting the money from that the project has been a success and worthwhile, it's critically about learning how to do better next time. Planning can be a problem. You don't need to get into the details of planning applications at this stage, but it's worth thinking about any constraints you might face. For example, conservation area issues or impacts on building appearance. Early conversation with planning authorities can save a lot of hassle later on. Bring them into the conversation. Tell them the story of your project and what you have in mind. Tell them about the benefits and the outcomes you're targeting. Get them on your side. And then they can help you with some of the decisions about the best way to do it, which will meet their planning objectives. Procurement is also something that needs thinking about. There are a whole range of ways of doing procurement for these kinds of projects, and each with their strengths and weaknesses. So bring your procurement team into the discussion early on. What are their favored approaches, and are they appropriate for this kind of project? They may be used to procuring components for new kitchens and things like that through an open tender procedure. You just put the specification out there, ask for tenders, and award the contract. That may work very well for buying standard components. For a whole house approach to retrofit, a more complex intervention, it may not be the best way to go about it. And one of the techniques which I've seen used to great effect is competitive dialogue. This is where you use an initial process to identify the most likely suppliers and then engage with actual dialogue with them about how the project can be delivered. Bring their expertise into the discussion. So you're stating what you're looking for, the outcomes you're looking for, and seeking their help in the best way to go about it. And then by dialogue, you can reach a conclusion that's satisfactory to both sides. There are also things like framework agreements and dynamic purchasing, which can make the whole process simpler. So one of the things you can do early on is to check whether you have framework agreements that are suitable for these kinds of projects. And you're definitely going to need your procurement team to deliver these projects. So again, bring them into the conversation early on. Find out where they're coming from, find out their preferences, and have the debate about, is this the right way to procure for this particular project? So, pulling it all together, use the toolkits to help you. Make sure you understand the implications of PAS 2035. You don't have to be an expert, but you do have to understand what it's there for and what the basic principles are. The business case template is a guide. It's a very useful guide. It asks you all the questions you need for a project. You're not going to have all the answers at the beginning, but just quickly sketching out where you think you are at the moment is very, very valuable. Identifying the areas where you need additional information. You will need to get buy-in from all kinds of people, and you will be continuously seeking support, agreement, and buy-in throughout the project. So again, thinking about the story, the goals, how you tell it, how that project is going to fit with the individual teams and suppliers and contractors and tenants that you need to agree. Good data is vital and can be a problem, and it's often a hidden problem. So an early check on the quality of the data can be very useful and can tell you whether you have a problem or not, how big a problem, that might lead you to one solution or the other. Then where will you get the people? A team. Be part of a consortium. What is your approach? Where are the gaps and how are you going to bridge them? The resident engagement, which starts very early on and runs all the way through the project. Think about the finance. Try and get that covered off. Think about monitoring and evaluation strategy. You're going to be doing it at the end of the project, but it's really useful to have some early thoughts about the kind of data you're going to need for the funders, the kind of information you want internally to justify the project and show the value. Planning is about checking whether you have any particular constraints at the beginning of the project. The detailed planning consents, of course, come much later. And then procurement, think about the approach to procurement. Think about the kind of work you're going to be doing and what is the best way to get the best value for your investment. And finally, don't panic. You don't have to complete all the steps in detail at the start of the project. I've gone across a lot of topics very rapidly. But don't worry about that. These are topics to explore and to begin shaping the project. Some may be well-established parts of your operation. Just need to check for suitability for this kind of project. Others will be new to you and will need more work. And there are toolkits and masterclasses for everything I've discussed today. They go into a lot more detail and they connect you with a range of useful resources. Use those. And if there are any further questions, then you can get in touch with Turner and Townsend at socialhousingretrofit.org.uk, and there's information on the website. Thank you very much.